Hey everybody, welcome to another Goody Reader review video. My name is Michael.
And this is Peter.
Today we are going to take a look at the Blackberry Z10. This is the first smartphone running BB10. It's an operating system, many years in development. We're going to show you the hardware, the software, and give you our thoughts on this. Display, fairly solid and the best in any Blackberry smartphone to date. You have 1280 by 768. And it's a 4.2-inch screen, so it's significantly larger than most other, smartphones on the market. Dual-core Snapdragon 1.5 gigahertz processor, 2 gigs of RAM, which is amazing. No other Blackberry phone has this much RAM in it. Of course, you have default 16 gigs of storage, but you can increase it via micro SD. And the camera is fairly good. You have 8 megapixels on the back and around 1 to 2 on the front. It's the first actually Blackberry phone to actually have a front-facing webcam.
For sure. Looking at the design, I am not a fan whatsoever of the fact that this is the white version, but the entire bezel around the digitizer here is black.
That's how it should look like.
Yes, I agree. The second we open this up, we're like, wait, isn't this the white one? And then we see this black panel that looks exactly like the one they have on the black version, just placed on it. I don't like it at all. I really wish they had the white digitizer on front to be a true white version. But
yeah,
otherwise,
same.
It's a great device. I mean, you have the very wide speaker here for your earpiece. You have a light sensor. You have a front-facing camera. A lot of the reason why the bezel's so big on this device because there's a lot of gesture support. So there's slides from the top, left, back, up, so forth. Nice plastics made with this device. On the back, you have a very nice grippy texture. You can see kind of it's like perforated plastic almost. You have the Blackberry logo, flash, and the camera. On the top, you have microphone. You also have a power standby button, 3.5mm headphone jack, micro HDMI, micro USB, volume up, volume down, and extra button, I guess. And then we will open up the back.
You could remove the battery in this like most Blackberry smartphones. So what this means is that when you're traveling, you can carry an extra battery in your pocket, but if the device becomes unresponsive, you can just do a hard reset by just removing the battery. Of course, you have your SIM here.
Micro SIM, micro SD, and then micro SIM. So you have micro.
Yeah.
Very nice and compact, very thin. I'm going to pop this back on here for you to show you.
It's light. The build quality is really high. We're not going to show you the camera on the review because, I mean, that would be kind of pointless with a white background. But it does have some cool Instagram-y effects. Like you could do black and white, a bunch of filters and things like that. It shoots in 1080p, and picture taking and video taking is actually pretty good. So next we're going to dive into the software side of things. Alright, so this is the main standby screen here. As you can see, it's how many emails you have unread, Twitter, Facebook. Also, it has integration for LinkedIn and Foursquare, so if you have those accounts connected, those would show as well. Much like the playbook, most of the stuff is gestures, so you swipe up onto the bezel. Kind of cool. Alright, so you have here most of your default things. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all preloaded. Everything else here is preloaded. Full version of Docs to go, which is cool. Of course, this is a smartphone, so you have like your main thing here. Voicemail, add number. Let's see here, contacts, even dial pad. Fairly okay. So, of course, one of the things is that I found out is you can actually sync your calendar with your Outlook calendar. Kind of a drawback. BBM, of course, it's still done through the Blackberry Internet Service, so it's still encrypted, very highly secure. Looking at App World, this is the revised interface, and it's actually called Blackberry World now instead of App World. So if you're like us and using Blackberry for many years, it's a bit of an adjustment. So you can see the Angry Birds Star Wars free download.
Looks pretty cool.
Yeah. You see this is the main interface here. Top games, albums, movies. Kind of give you an example here. You can rent the movie, say The Dark Knight, $4.99, or just buy it for $19.99. you can preview it. And I guess it probably will take a second or two.
I have found that the Blackberry Z10 or Z10 isn't really that snappy and that quick. Notice for a lot of things, the load times really get you.
Yeah.
I mean, not just the stuff on internet, but just loading programs in general.
It's true. Navigating to and fro is snappy, but doing a lot of things does take a little bit of time. As you can see here, the map system is a bit different. So you definitely don't have like turn-by-turn navigation. This isn't as cool, as intuitive as, say, like a Google Maps or anything like that. And we are on Wi-Fi right now. So as you can see, there are a few delays and things like that. So just like your basic mapping type app. Could hide traffic.
It's kind of cool you show traffic though.
Yeah, well, it kind of shows you the main streets, and so you kind of know that if you go to like show traffic, well, Nanaimo is a busy street, so you can see that. But definitely pales in comparison to even Apple Maps, and more particularly Google Maps. Newsstand is, you know, basically a way that you could start reading, get magazines and stuff like that. So you can kind of check this out here and get reading. Speaking of reading, in BlackBerry World, there's hardly any e-reading apps at all. And actually, I've noticed a pretty bad problem with piracy. And I'll show you that right away. For instance, you do have, like, there's a popular app here, Engadget, but it's not from Engadget, and it's $1.99. You have routers, but this is not by Thomson Routers. It's by some guy named Ascofield, and the app is entirely in Chinese. Same with, like, G-Reader Pro. This is not the official app. This is actually a pirated app. Somebody took the Android APK and did that. There's a ton of apps just like this. People took the Android ports and wrapped them up and just said, okay, this is the app, and it's from, you know, some dude. And the vast majority of apps that I've looked at are just like this. They, you know, it's an Android port, but you would never know it. There's no information on this. And Android ports in general on the Z10 are rather poor. We have here Pulse. On like an iPhone or like an Android phone, this is very fast. It would have already loaded already, but it's load.
Everything's kind of laggy. Even the loading circles are kind of choppy.
Yeah, because this is the Android emulator, and it's an old Android emulator, so you could see things just take a long time to load. And I mean, on any other device, it's blazingly fast. But just to click on a simple news story, it loads, but I mean, you saw it's just really slow. Of course, you can see here that we have Kindle, Marvel Comics, Moon Reader, Pulse, Raiden. Are any of these apps on App World? Nope. We had to sideload them all from our own Good e-Reader app store. There's no e-reading apps from Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Nook, anything on BlackBerry World. Any e-reading app or comic app or anything like that of note has to be sideloaded from an Android file. So you can get the full Kindle e-reading experience if you wanted to, or maybe you could read a comic book if you also wanted to. So I'll show you quickly how that looks. So you see comics load up a bit faster.
That was quick.
Yeah. And of course, pinching and zooming is fairly responsive. You can go letterbox by letterbox if you wanted to. So I mean, with the higher resolution, comics actually don't look that bad. But you're not going to get the HD kind of comics than you would, say, like on a more fully featured tablet, like the new iPad 3 or iPad 4. So comics don't look too bad, but some apps really suffer with the Android emulator. So if you know, 51% of smartphone users statistically do catch up with news and read on their phones, whether they're reading books, newspapers, RSS feeds, and so on. So this is Moon Reader. You could, of course, increase the sizes of like the text if you wanted to. There's a lot of customization and stuff like that, as you can see here.
It changes live in the background. That's good.
Yeah. So I mean, not all Android ports are terrible, but you could really see how BlackBerry World has certain types of games and certain types of apps. But if you're, you know, for instance, no e-reading and comic apps. It has one or two native apps written by indie developers, but you don't have the support of anybody of note. And so I would say that the lack of quality apps in BlackBerry World is the #1 drawback. If you look at, say, iOS or Android, I mean, 600,000 or more apps on each platform, and in a lot of cases a lot more. With BlackBerry, I think they have about 70,000, 30,000 of them plus are Android ports. Right. And so it makes things a little bit more woeful. Default Facebook apps, fairly solid. A lot of people say that they don't really like them, but I find it's like good. And a lot of the Facebook and Twitter and everything like that, it's actually tied in to your main hub here. So as you saw, to get there, I just scroll like this. And so your hub is default where all of your connected accounts go. So Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of your different email accounts. And then they're kind of set here. And for instance, here's an email from Barnes & Noble. As you can see, it's very bright. You can pinch and zoom in emails. And then you can click on the little settings bar and get a number of things here. So you can add to contact, reply, and stuff. Now, with one of the cool things about why I kind of like this is the ability to delete all emails. iOS specifically, you kind of have to go and delete them one by one, or you can kind of like highlight them and delete them. What I like about BlackBerry is the ability to just hold down on a date. You see a little trash can here. Swipe, and you can delete all prior. Now, the more email accounts you have, the longer it takes us to delete them. And when I had one email account connected, it pretty well deleted them pretty fast. As you can see, I hit delete prior, and it's still kind of not really working properly. So as you can see, it kind of chips and lags. This is one of the main issues I found with email here. Now, speaking of email, here's the deal. There's a lot of confusion on the internet, and I've read plenty of forum posts on Crackberry, on our own Goody Reader forum, on comments on our website, and so on. Here's how it works. You don't need a dedicated BlackBerry data plan or social plan anymore to use Twitter, Facebook, or to get email. Email is not... Okay, so it's technically done through BlackBerry internet servers, but it's only done for the packet encryption. In the past, with devices, say like the BlackBerry Torch, it was hardware encryption. And what this means is that it took advantage of a little thing called like Turbo. And what this did is it not only encrypted, but it compressed all your data. With the Blackberry Z10, instead of it being compressed through the BlackBerry servers, it's all done through your carriers now. And so what this means is, in the past, when you traveled, BlackBerry devices normally accounted for, if you had the encryption with older devices, about 4% more encryption and compression of your data, which basically means if you travel a lot, you're going to be paying less data fees. But if you get a lot of emails and attachments, and you know, I get like 400 or 500 a day, and so if I'm traveling or roaming, I'm going to have to pay huge data fees, where in the past with non-BB10 phones, I wouldn't have to pay those huge data fees because a lot of my emails would be compressed. Now, also, here's the deal with pushed email, because obviously BlackBerry is known for their enterprise, their active sync, and their BIS or biz internet services. This is really all done through carriers now. The BlackBerry servers are only really used for BBM to be done encrypted fully, but again, only packets are encrypted. Your actual emails are not being pushed. And sort of like if you look at our settings menu here, I can kind of dive into emails and kind of show you what I mean. Okay, so if you look here, they have sync intervals. You can't really go any more than 15 minutes. With prior BlackBerry phones, if I were to send someone an email, or if someone were to send me an email, it would go from their server to the BlackBerry server and then instantly push to my phone. Now, because a lot of that stuff's not done through the BlackBerry internet service anymore, it's done through the providers. And so different providers have different sync intervals, whether you're using IMAP, POP3, and so on. So as you can see here, it's 15 minutes, but on average, I did notice that I would get emails quicker than 15 minutes. It would often be like 2 to maybe 5 minutes between when someone sent me an email with a timestamp and I actually received it. So in the end, you're not going to get the same type of quality pushed email services that you would get on, say, the BlackBerry Bold or prior, you know, BlackBerry 7 type of phones. But this is still very quality in email services. It's significantly a lot better than Android and iOS. So I wanted to really harp on that, because really BlackBerry phones, you're getting them for the email, the world-class support. And I almost felt a little bit let down. Delete prior, woefully slow. A lot of emails not done through BlackBerry internet services anymore, and that sucks, because that's the whole reason why I was with BlackBerry's phones for so long. Let's look at the internet browser. This is the one thing that received like a huge upgrade, and we'll just quickly click on YouTube here. As you can see, it loaded blazingly fast, and if you hit the settings here, you can see here that there are a number of options. There's a lot of them. You can even enable or disable Adobe Flash, which is
pretty cool.
Which is, you know,
useful.
Yeah, and I mean, if a lot of the internet sites and a lot of companies have just gone anti-Flash. I mean, even Flash, Adobe themselves has not really supported anymore, so it's kind of cool. BlackBerry also, the internet browser, it's one of the best internet browsers in the world for being able to support HTML5 right out of the box. So there's a lot of kind of cool security issues here, or sort of options, as it were. So here's just a quick video. I have no idea what this is.
Where would Soma, Millennia Fine Art and Galleries Limited. Security clearance Alpha Alpha Alpha.
Just to give you an idea of what it looks like.
Yeah. Looks like a student animation project.
Yeah.
So they gave a star yacht and sent me out undercover as an art dealer. A first-class rig.
As an art dealer. So we'll just take a look quickly at some of the other apps here. Sort of like your default weather app.
Raining in Vancouver, huh?
Well, actually, just refreshed.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Nice.
Overcast. Even
Yeah.
better.
Well, at least it's not
World
raining,
of difference.
But of course you have your music player and stuff here. Well, I guess that was a ringtone. So, here's your... Speaker quality is not that bad.
Yeah, it gets the job done.
Yeah. So, of course, you know, once we close the app, there's really nothing there. You drag down from the top, you see a lot of your settings here. You can lock the rotation, so if you always want to be in portrait mode, and if you tilt it and you don't want the gyroscope or accelerometer to switch perspectives, you can do that. You can also check out your notifications. What I like about this is, traditionally with BlackBerry you have the LED light, and whenever you get emails, texts, and stuff, it blinks. But with the Z10, you can actually establish what function you want to blink. So for instance, by default everything blinks. You get text, Twitter messages, emails, everything blinks. But what I can do is I could actually disable the blinking LED on text messages, tweets, LinkedIn messages, Facebooks, and just set it for my emails. So I know if this blinks, it's only because I received an email, which is kind of cool. And depending on the type of user you are, you can establish that and have just like a little bit more interesting settings. Of course, you can make it so phone calls only, vibrate only, a lot of kind of cool settings. What else while we're here? Just so you could kind of see what else there is. We've made a dedicated video telling you how to load Android apps. So if you want to learn how to sideload like that Kindle app that we showed you, Marvel Comics, or basically thousands of games and other apps, check out our other YouTube video. It's entitled How to Load Android Apps on the Blackberry Z10. It'll teach you everything that you need to know. It's a quick 7-minute video, walks you through everything. So in the end, you know, we've showed you most things here: audio, video, apps, side-loaded apps. Finally, let's take a look at a game, because people like to game on their phones. So of course, this is a side-loaded Android app as well. You can tell this is like a chiptune, 16-bit kind of classic. I don't think you can ever not shoot.
Yeah, it just fires.
But I guess if you're in space, technically, you wouldn't overheat from shooting all the time because it's just so cold in space.
Are those rocks heading towards me? I can't see. There's too much glare.
I think so. But I don't think it really hurts you. I think only like laser beams and stuff.
Oh, get the gems. Oh yeah, I guess they don't.
But as you can see, it's lagging a bit, eh?
Yeah, every time you blow something up.
That's the problem, I guess, is that the Android emulator is severely outdated. I think it only gives you 2.3. And I mean, Peter, you're a pretty big Android user. How long ago was 2.3 the average?
2.3 was the first like Sony Ericsson, Sony Xperia I had back in 2000, I don't know, 2010. I mean, it's outdated.
Yeah, so
it really
it's outdated by at least like a good 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And so in order for BlackBerry to really succeed with the Android emulated ports, they really have to like update it to, I would say, Jelly Bean to
Right.
at least be current, because I mean, this summer there's a new version of Android coming out. So I mean, having it with 2.3 just like limits you so much to the options that are available, because like a number of ports now are only written for higher versions of Android, and so it really makes the Z10 not competitive. As you can see it even on a game with like 16-bit graphics, you know, and we're not talking about like a huge 3D game. We're talking about a very simple, you know, up down, you know, chiptune soundtrack, and like already you saw like there's a lot of lag in it, which sucks. Peter, what are your thoughts about the Z10?
I As a phone, it's good. As a BlackBerry phone, I'm kind of confused about the whole email system because I thought one of the main reasons you'd get a BlackBerry is to just get your emails all kind of to you as quick as possible. But now that they're changing so many things about that aspect, it really seems like it's not really the phone to go to if you're a business person. I would rather go with a BlackBerry Torch if that was the case. On its own, though, I think the phone is pretty good. I mean, the build quality is great. As I said, I don't like this black bezel here. I wish this was white. I like the speaker quality. It seems decent enough. It's got micro HDMI out. So paired that with the great resolution of the phone, I mean, it seems to be really good output quality as well. You see here there's a lot of gesture supports. I think they're making good use of not having things on the screen at all times. For example, if you were to open something up, you'll notice that the top bar, much like you see on Android phones, that is consistent throughout the entire...
Yeah, status bar always disappears.
Yeah, exactly. Like on Android phones, no matter what, you'll see that status bar at the top. Right here, no matter where you go. So if you go
Same with the Torch.
Right.
You're always seeing like the status bar on top and everything that changes is within here. So this is always consistent.
So you see that I went to the weather app and the bar is still there. I can go to the Facebook app, this bar is still there, and I will be able to see all my stuff every time. However, on this, if you're not used to the gesture support, you're like, oh wait, okay, I'll go back. Oh wait, how do I go back? So you really got to get used to know how to close things, learning a new platform kind of thing. So overall, I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, it's a good phone. It's not the best BlackBerry phone, so I'd say it's okay. It's not my cup of tea, absolutely. I would go with Android, definitely. Of course, I'm just an Android fan, but I mean, I have no disrespect for this phone whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing I kind of want to kind of show you is the keyboard, and this is sort of
just start a text.
This is the keyboard, and I'm not a huge fan of this keyboard layout. I mean, you look at this tectonic feel. I know it's most people are doing smartphones, but you can see that they've maintained similar design in the keyboard function. You can see that it's almost the entire layout is almost the same, except for like the alt keys and stuff like that.
You know what I don't like though? It's capitals. You see capitals no matter how many times you press shift, like an iPhone.
So you don't know if you're like in uppercase or lowercase.
Exactly. I've never been a fan of that. I like to have the knowledge that if you press shift, you know that you're going to be going into capital mode kind of thing.
Yeah. You do see like the bigger keys when you are typing though.
See the lowercase on Android versus the fully uppercase capital on there.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like the keyboard's solid. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, for a touchscreen phone, especially one of this size, it's a solid keyboard.
Oh yeah.
It just the lack of capital letters and things like that may be a deal breaker for some. But I mean, it is. I don't know. I mean, I like it. I mean, I found though that my fingers are not the smallest.
Let's see how many we can press with one thumb. Like,
yeah, exactly. But I mean, in the end, I'm not a huge fan of the email, as I said. The app selection is fairly woeful. There are a number of pirated apps. BlackBerry's not doing a good job making sure that the apps being uploaded are by the developers and not by like third parties uploading Android ports. Because if that's the case, I can upload 5,000 apps today with my name on it. But I mean, I'm not going to do that because they're not my apps. But a lot of people don't respect that. So the app selection is woeful. The email support is not as great as it was on previous phones, although you do have the encrypted BBM support. On another note, the keyboard's good. This is LTE. And it's basically the quickest and highest performing phone that BlackBerry's ever released. I mean, if you compare this to any other phone they've ever done, it just blows it away in how fast things load, the size of the screen, the 2 gigs of RAM, the processor. It's a beautiful phone, but I mean it's the growing pains of a totally new OS, and that's the thing. When you're competing against Windows, when you're competing against Android, when you're competing against iOS, it's very hard to secure developer support because most first-party developers are releasing things for iOS. They're releasing things then to Android. No first-party developers are really doing a lot with BlackBerry. BlackBerry can host all the development jams as they want. They could offer $10,000 incentives for native apps as they want, but they're not really going to attract those like world-class game companies. But to counter that point, there are Angry Birds, there are Gameloft games, there are things like that. But I mean, a lot of them are just they're big game companies, you know. But you're not going to find the big selection as you would. So if you're big on gaming, I'd avoid this. If you're big on email, this is probably the best email phone in comparison to other phones on the market that are new phones. And we want to hear your thoughts.
Lots of language supports, by the way.
Yeah.
Tons of language supports.
So
yes,
let's hear your thoughts. I mean, you've heard ours, and leave a comment on this video and let us know what you think. For GoodEreader.com and a review of the Blackberry Z10. My name is Michael.
My name is Peter.
Everybody take care.